BookTube. This is going to be my January wrap-up video. I do realize I am almost at the end of February and I'm just now getting around to posting January's video. It's not been for a lack of trying. This will actually be like my fourth time to film it, and there have been lots of technical difficulties. I don't know why it seems to only happen with my wrap-up videos. Every other video I film just pretty much goes really well and not a lot of issues, and for whatever reason the wrap-up videos, it's like the universe is against me. But if you have watched my December wrap-up, it was actually kind of depressing. I only read a couple of books, didn't really like any of them, but January was a lot better. And February's actually been really good so far. It's been really good. But anyway, to focus on January, the first book I read in the month of January, and I actually started it in December, but I read about half of it in January, was Unbroken by Hillenbrand. This was a very good book. If you are fans of non-fiction, I would definitely suggest it. Even if you're not fans of non-fiction, my wife read this, and she is typically not a non-fiction person, and she's also not like a war story person, but she really enjoyed it, so I think a lot of people can enjoy it. Laura Hillenbrand did a good job of writing it in a way that the writing style added to the story, but didn't overpower it, and I was very impressed by that. Gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, I think. Don't actually know, but I'm pretty sure it was 5 out of 5. The second book that I read was actually a book that gets released on March 15th. It was Clash of Eagles by Smale. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. I actually devoted an entire video review to it because I got access to it before it was released, so I'll link that video down below if you're interested. It's like an alternative historical fiction. It was actually pretty good. I really enjoyed it. It was so that I read it in a day. It's been a long time since I read a book in a day, so that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. The third book I read was Deadlock by Liparulo. This is a sequel to Deadfall, which is one of my favorite novels. I did not like Deadlock as much, not because it wasn't well written or the story wasn't good, but the story is basically an average Joe gets put in these extraordinary situations and you find out he's a badass, and he's a badass with a bow, which is very cool. Deadfall takes place in the Canadian wilderness, where this takes place in like suburban America. So I think the setting wasn't nearly as interesting to me, but it was still a good book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was a fun read. The next book that I read in January was Emma by Jane Austen. This was my first Jane Austen that I read, and I was not disappointed. I've read up on Emma some after I finished it. I've heard a lot of people say they had a hard time getting through it. It was one of the tougher Jane Austens to get through. So I'm really curious to read another one because I thoroughly enjoyed Emma. This is probably also the first like true romance book that I've ever read. And my wife's a huge Jane Austen fan, and she likes her so much. I knew I wasn't going to dislike the book, but I didn't realize how much I was going to like it. The dialogue is very snappy and witty. For any sci-fi fans out there, I would compare it to like a Joss Whedon in the fact that the humor flows so well in the conversation. It seems very natural. Very much enjoyed it. Her characters were very good. You liked the characters you were supposed to like, you sympathized with the characters you were supposed to, you disliked the characters you were supposed to dislike, and Emma was slightly annoying, but I think that was the point. Mr. Knightley was actually a very good character. There's very few male protagonists that I end up liking in romance stories, but he's definitely my favorite so far. Gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars, but I would thoroughly recommend it. Even if you're not a romance fan or you've never read Jane Austen before, I would still recommend it. It has a lot of merit. She's a very good author, and the story, even though it's not covering something that I typically would enjoy reading about, I still very much enjoyed the book. Then I decided to tackle something a little bit more hefty. The Way of Kings by Sanderson. This, in case you never read it before, is like a 1,000-page book. It's pretty chunky. It was my first foray into Sanderson, and this book I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I was a little bit, not disappointed, but a little bit confused. About 800 pages through the 1,000-page book, I liked it, but so many people speak so highly of Brandon Sanderson. I was expecting a lot more from him, and then like the last 200 pages completely blew me away. Like, even though I only gave it 4 out of 5 stars, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because it took a while to get to the point where it was really good. I'm very much looking forward to reading the second book. This is the first book of the Stormlight Archives, the second book, Word of Radiance. I actually own. Not for sure when I'm going to get around to reading it, but I'm very much looking forward to that. Yeah, so if for some reason you're one of like the 3 people that haven't read Brandon Sanderson yet, you should definitely read it. It was a very, very good book, very intriguing. He doesn't give you a lot of information. He just basically plops you down in the world and you have no clue what's going on, and you, even by the end of the first book, which is like 1,000 pages, you still really don't know how a lot of the universe works. You don't really know how the magic system works. You kind of have broad strokes. You're not even really for sure what's going on. The main plot, you have a good idea of what's going on. There's a lot of more of the subtle points that you're still kind of clueless about, but I really like. Also, Zeth is one of my favorite characters of all time. He is just really cool. Not so much the emotional turmoil that he goes through, because that, wouldn't be fun for anyone, but his abilities are really cool. I really enjoyed the few scenes that he had in this book. The last book that I read in the month of January was The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. I had never read any Ray Bradbury before, and I actually wanted to read Fahrenheit 451 because that's his most famous work. But I was in a situation where I was going to be listening to it on audiobook, and I could only find The Martian Chronicles, and I hadn't heard anything about them, but I really, really, really liked them. I was very impressed by them. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I will caution people, it's listed as a science fiction novel, whereas really it's a collection of short fantasy stories that happen to follow a chronological timeline, all based around the same event. But no 2 stories are the same. Most of the stories have a theme or a point that he's trying to get across, but they're very subtle, which I liked, because the story would end and you'd be trying to piece together what point he was trying to make through the story. They were wonderfully crafted. They kept you on your toes throughout the entire thing. There were some really creepy ones. They were really good. I am very excited to read more Ray Bradbury. Like I said, I didn't even own this book when I read it. I finished listening to it and promptly went out and bought a copy because I was so in love with him. That was my January reading wise. It was very good, and I have continued on to a very strong February. Thank you everyone for watching. I do plan on doing kind of like a teaser video for Martian Chronicles because I liked it so much and I think everyone should read it. I was very impressed with it. But hopefully that'll be coming out soon. If you have read any of these books before, let me know what you think about them. I'd be very interested. You're also free to like, comment, or subscribe. But yeah, thanks again for watching. Hope you have a good morning, noon, or night, and I will see you all next time.